What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Off the Top Rope, Off the Mic Sports Network. The big question coming into Saturday night is, from a wrestling perspective, is how is AEW going to respond to the seismic news, the expected news that AJ Lee has joined her husband CM Punk in WWE after a week of speculation and pretty much, like I said, the consensus amongst the fan base that it was an inevitability. If you believe that it was anybody else that was showing up to help CM Punk, you're an idiot. I got to give AEW some credit. Collision on Saturday night up against college football was pretty solid, pretty storyline driven. A lot of angles advanced. The card for All Out 2 weeks in 2 weeks time that was moved up 5 hours. The bad optics of the week. AEW didn't generate any headlines per se, like any seismic headlines, but hey, they're putting together a decent card. It's solid, but it's not spectacular. And it wasn't ever going to be that. Don't kid yourself. Like, there's nothing in my eyes that AEW can do to really generate the headlines short of, some of these matches on the show. There's going to be some graphic nature and, this AEW is going to be AEW and do some really crazy shit. But this card's rounding into form. And, given the limitations that they have from this fact that their booker is kind of inept, but also, they're kind of deficient on talent, and some of their big names are not there. Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay are not available. Kenny Omega just got written off the television. So, let's actually start there in terms of looking at this AEW card. So really, Hangman Adam Page, it's all but been confirmed. Maybe it has been confirmed at the time of this recording. But Kyle Fletcher basically called out and basically challenged Hangman Adam Page for the World Championship. Hangman's going to face Josh Alexander on Wednesday on Dynamite. So seemingly what this is heading towards is the TNT champion Kyle Fletcher versus the AEW Men's World Champion Hangman Adam Page. So for the second consecutive year, All Out's going to host a champion versus champion world title match, which, they did it last year with Jack Perry and Bryan Danielson. The problem here is Hangman's not losing. I don't know what this does for Fletcher. They've already faced each other. It's predictable, but it is, nonetheless kind of interesting. And at least there is a direction and a defined, way they're going with this Hangman thing. Clearly he's going to be feuding with Don Callis and his family, at least going into the fall here in AEW. The inevitability of Darby Allin and Jon Moxley, that's been the direction seemingly since All In. And that's going to happen. It's going to be a coffin match. You better believe that there's going to be some crazy shit. Darby might fall into a casket or something like that. I don't know what this is going to look like. They're probably going to try and kill each other. And there might be some graphic stuff that goes in here because AEW is going to have to create a headline. And Jon Moxley's a crazy motherfucker. And Darby Allin, you damn sure know, is a crazy motherfucker. And he's going to probably try and maybe impale himself or something. I don't know. MJF, day after he gets married, shows up to work and, seemingly sets up a match with him and Mark Briscoe. Cool. Don't really like how this kind of went the way that it did with MJF going for the world championship and now going out and seemingly he'll probably get written off of television is my guess. He'll probably go on his honeymoon. That would make some sense. The women's division at least got some clarity, and this is maybe the best case scenario because there really wasn't a defined challenger. And if you would have thrown a one-on-one match at Toni Storm, it would have been, it's still pretty predictable in my eyes. But Toni Storm basically challenged the best hitters in the women's division right now. Also, I'll just say this. Megan Bayne is dead on arrival, not getting any reaction. And she, in a match where the big heavy hitters of this division are getting thrown. Also, I feel bad for Queen Aminata, too, who had been doing really well recently. She kind of gets tossed aside. But basically what happens is a four-way match. Jamie Hayter, Tekla, and Chris Statlander are all going to get a chance to face off for the women's world championship. Toni Storm facing all three of them. It's a four-way. I don't see Toni Storm losing. There is the possibility that Chris Statlander could potentially join the Death Riders and win the world title. I wouldn't hate that. I mean, considering where she was at this very event a year ago, being a heel and maybe on the run of her life, and then they just turn her babyface for no reason whatsoever, that could happen. But, I mean, Tekla's not winning. Her and Jamie Hayter are going to go into a feud, so they ain't winning. It's really basically, I think Toni Storm's going to win here, but there is the possibility that Chris Statlander, with all the hinting that she may join the Death Riders, could be something out of left field that could potentially happen, because she did, to close out the match, used Wheeler Yuta's seatbelt maneuver to close out that match. And then there's speculation here. I don't know if it's going to be, I mean, obviously I said MJF and Mark Briscoe, there's going to be a stipulation to that match. It's probably going to be a dog collar match, given the history of the Briscoes. That makes a lot of sense. And then, you know, Big Bill had a backstage segment where he called out Eddie Kingston, which was interesting. Eddie Kingston has long been rumored. I think this is not the greatest way to bring Eddie Kingston back. I would have thought he probably would have fit more into the whole Darby Allin and Jon Moxley thing, because his history with Moxley. But, you know, Eddie Kingston's a big name for them, not maybe in the grand scheme of things. So, like I said, AEW did kind of what they were supposed to do. But it still feels small here, and it still feels kind of unspectacular, because they're limited with their roster in terms of how they've booked and also who is available. And then you're doing it on a collision show up against college football, where a lot of people aren't going to see it. So that's another misstep. And some of these matches feel really predictable. You know, Cope and Christian are going to beat FTR, I think. At least that's what I think is going to happen. And then, you know, Darby and Mox is a coin flip. MJF Briscoe, kind of a coin flip. But the women's championship, the men's championship, it's just like there's a lot. And we don't know what Okada's doing. So that's an element here that we have no idea of where that whole thing's going. So in terms of a response, it's fine. But as I said, I don't think there's anything that AEW can do as a company to change the public perception of what they are. They are clearly second best. And a lot of people will say that's what they were going for, but they're really, like, it could have been, like, at least interesting. And like I said, you know, the reason why I was railing on them for the whole CM Punk AJ Lee thing is because, like, that could have been theirs. It was right there for them. Imagine AJ Lee showing up on a show, and they wouldn't have had to do these residencies. AJ Lee showing up on a show to confront Mercedes Moné. That could have been you guys. So I give them credit. This was much more cohesive. This was a much better show than what they gave on Dynamite. They didn't take any barbs at WWE for what they're doing. They did their business. But again, it's not going to change anything. Like, this is still going to be a show that's going to be largely forgettable on September the 20th. There's going to be news left and right coming out of that WrestlePalooza show. It may not be the better show bell to bell, because, you know, AJ Lee's going to have her first match in 10 years. Brock Lesnar, you know, say what you will about him. I don't really care too much about that. I just want to see John Cena wrestle, because I get it. Like, I mean, they're two guys that have their histories tied together, but nobody was, listen, some people may have been asking for this, but, you know, I get it. It's an ESPN thing. ESPN wanted this to be more sports thing. If it were me, I would have had John Cena face AJ Styles. But I get it. This isn't just about wrestling for WWE. This is about creating headlines. And you bring back Brock Lesnar, you know, any publicity is good publicity, even though, you know, the unfortunate nature of what's going on with Brock Lesnar, which I'm not going to get into. I'm not going to get into the dialogue about that. Listen, like I said, it's a questionable choice. I'll just leave it at that. So, but all in all, AEW did their job, I think. They did their job, but to me, it's not going to change anything. It's not even just it's a blip on the radar if we're looking at that. So anyway, thanks so much, everybody, for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.